Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Kevin Crater Show. Joining you on a cold spring day here in Michigan. Unseasonably cold, but we're going to get through it. So, I want to talk to you guys about something that happened last week. This was a hearing for NPR chairman. Is that her name? Or is that her title? Katherine Maher. She's the head of NPR, anyways. And she had a little hearing in Congress where Rep. Brandon Gill really um, tore her apart. And I just wanted to play that for you because we rarely see this kind of dismantling that's just so well done. And he uses her own words, her own tweets, things like that against her and questions her on it. And so it's a masterclass on how it should be done. So I'm going to play this for you. It's about 5 minutes or so, and I'll probably stop it a little bit here and there to comment on it. But let's take a listen. And Marjorie Taylor Greene is starting this, so we're going to start with her, and she's going to kick it over to Mr. Gill there.
Thank you, Chairwoman Green, and I apologize. I'm getting over a cold, so I'm losing my voice here. Miss Maher, I want to start with you. Just generally, would you say you generally agree or disagree with the following statement? The history of all hitherto existing society is the history of class struggles.
I would not say I agree with that, sir.
That's good to hear. It's interesting because a lot of your thinking, as expressed by your public statements, is deeply infused with economic and cultural Marxism. Do you believe that America is addicted to white supremacy?
I believe that I tweeted that, and as I've said earlier, I believe much of my thinking has evolved over the last half decade.
It has evolved. Why did you tweet that?
I don't recall the exact context, sir, so I wouldn't be able to say.
Okay. Do you believe that America believes in black plunder and white democracy?
I don't believe that, sir.
You tweeted that in reference to a book you were reading at the time, apparently, The Case for Reparations.
I don't think I've ever read that book, sir.
You tweeted about it. You said you.
All right, so that's just brilliant timing. It's almost like perfect comedic timing. This guy, I've never heard of him before, but he's really good. So let's continue.
Took a day off to fully read The Case for Reparations. You put that on Twitter in January of 2020.
I apologize. I don't recall that I did.
Okay.
I'd no doubt that your tweet there is correct, but I.
You don't recall taking an entire day off to read a book about reparations. Okay. So either she's lying or she lied about the tweet.
I don't recall that.
Okay. Do you believe that white people inherently feel superior to other races?
I do not.
You don't. You tweeted something to that effect. You said, I grew up feeling superior. How white of me. Why did you tweet that?
I think I was probably reflecting on what it was to grow up in an environment where I had lots of advantages.
It sounds like you're saying that white people feel superior.
I don't believe that anybody feels that way, sir. I was just reflecting on my own experiences.
Do you think that white people should pay reparations?
I've never said that, sir.
Yes, you did. You said it in January of 2020. You tweeted, yes, the North, yes, all of us, yes, America, yes, our original collective sin and unpaid debt, yes, reparations, yes, on this day.
I don't believe that was a reference to fiscal reparations.
Okay, so this lady is the head of National Public Radio, which gets some funding from tax money. And she's saying stuff like this. Unbelievable.
Sir.
What kind of reparations was it a reference to?
I think it was just a reference to the idea that we all owe much to the people who came before us.
That's a bizarre way to frame what you tweeted.
That is a very generic and general statement. And it's true. We all owe a lot to the people who came before us. I mean, we all stand on the shoulders of giants to get where we are. But that's not the same thing as reparations.
Okay. How much reparations have you personally paid?
Sir, I don't believe that I've ever paid reparations.
Okay, it's just for everybody else.
I'm not asking anyone.
Seems to be what you're suggesting.
Yeah, the government. That's when people want reparations paid. They want the government to pay for them, which means everyone. She just doesn't want to do it out of her pocket, even though she believes it.
Believe that looting is morally wrong?
I believe that looting is illegal and I referred to it as counterproductive. I think it should be prosecuted.
Do you
to the
believe
full
it's
extent of the
morally
law.
wrong, though?
Of course.
Of course. Then why did you refer to it as counterproductive? It's a very different way to describe it.
It is both morally wrong and counterproductive, as well as being
You
illegal.
tweeted, "It's hard to be mad about protests," in reference to the BLM protests, not prioritizing the private property of a system of oppression. You didn't condemn the looting. You said that it was counterproductive. NPR also promoted a book called In Defense of Looting. Do you think that that's an appropriate use of taxpayer dollars?
I'm unfamiliar with that book, sir, and I don't believe that was at my
You
time at
tweeted that
NPR.
you read that book, but
I don't believe that I did read that book, sir.
do you think that
Again, she lied about reading it to gain some sort of cred, or she's lying now. Either way, she's a liar.
a few years ago, NPR educated America about, quote, the whole community of genderqueer dinosaur enthusiasts? Do you think that that's an appropriate use of tax dollars?
I was not an
Gender queer dinosaur enthusiasts. Classic.
NPR at the time, sir.
That's not the question, though. Do you think that that's an appropriate use of our tax dollars?
I think our tax dollars that we use are to be able to provide a wide range of
So I'll take that as a yes. You do believe that that's appropriate. Your health advisor at NPR also stated in an interview that, quote, fear of fatness is more harmful than actual fat. Would you like to explain how fear of fatness is more harmful than actual fat?
It's typical left-wing tactic to call something that you disagree with fear. So if you disagree with, let's say, the LGBT movement or ethos or homosexuality in general, they say you fear it or you hate it. It's just disagreement, and so you say you're scared or you fear fat. Like you just think that people shouldn't be fat; they should be fit, not fat. So it's typical tactic. He continues.
Directly, that's an editorial at NPR.
I am not familiar with the editorial, and I don't believe that was published during my time here.
It's called Diet Culture is Everywhere. Here's how to fight it. Do you think that that's an appropriate use of taxpayer dollars?
I think any reporting on health is an appropriate use of
You've
taxpayer
spent
dollars. Yes.
and you think that editorializing that fat is not unhealthy is appropriate.
I don't know what that article is, sir, and I'm not familiar with it, so I
This
couldn't
is
say.
fake news. Do you think that basic accommodations like doorways or seat belts represent, quote, latent fat phobia?
I don't have an opinion.
It's
on that,
also
sir.
from NPR. Do you think civility is racist?
No, sir.
No. Your outlet ran an article entitled, quote, when civility is used as a cudgel against people of color. That was on All Things Considered. Would you like to explain?
I'm not on the editorial side, sir. I'm not familiar with that story.
You talk about how NPR is news. This is editorialization, and I'll read it. For many people of color in the United States, civility isn't so much social lubricant as it is a vehicle for containing them, preventing social mobility, and preserving the status quo. This is garbage. I'll spend all of my time doing everything I can to ensure you guys never get another dollar of taxpayer funding. This is complete garbage. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
Good on that guy, man. I'll have to look him up. I don't even know where he's from, but he totally owned her. I mean, that was from Forbes YouTube channel there. So credit to them. But man, he just totally owned her, and that is the way to do it. And NPR has long since been a news site. I mean, I used to listen to them, and I'm consider myself a straight line conservative, a border libertarian. I mean, I used to listen to them because they had interesting articles and interesting programs and even some fun stuff. But there's a episode of my show. I'll put a link to it below. It talks about NPR and how it's just evolved into what it used to be, and it's just so sad. NPR has the potential to be a really good thing for the country, but it's been co-opted by the left propagandists, and they just continue to use it for their own purposes. I mean, what more could you expect, right? This is what they do. Again, that Brandon Gill there, that was really really good, and credit to him. And that's all for today. Just wanted to get that out there in case you hadn't heard it. Now you have, and you can appreciate it. And NPR is not our friend, but hopefully I am. Check you later. Have a good one.